Welcome to Central Valley. This is our first day of cutting on the site, which we've taken over as part of the Furnace to Flowers project. One of our early concerns with the site was the amount of steep sloping banks which hadn't been cut for a long time, and we knew for those to actually reach the potential which we knew they had, we would have to be cutting those, and using brush cutters was going to be a really time consuming and manpower consuming task. So using part of the funding we gained, we actually spent some money on a BCS mower which is able to cope with these slopes, and we can cut it in far less time using far less people to do the work as well. Technically it's down to almost a one-man job now, and this is going to provide a huge benefit for these sort of lovely scalloped sloping banks which run along the side of Central Valley. So this is the mower we bought for the project. So for any of you kit junkies out there, it's a BCS Bank Commander. The real advantage to this is it can deal with really difficult sloping terrain, and it's really safe for the operator as well. So you've got a bar on the front which is basically a row of teeth that work back and forth across each other at quite a nice sensible slow speed, but they will cut through pretty much anything. As you can see by the bank we've started on already here, it's made a huge difference, and we've only been here for a short amount of time. The wheels are driven by an engine, so you're not pushing any weight either. It is totally powered by its own force, and the blades are cutting at the front as far away from you as you'd like a blade to be. So it's a really, really sensible bit of kit and so useful for this kind of task. The only bad bit is it doesn't collect the grass, so you then have to follow up by raking it, which is where our wonderful volunteers come in and help us out anyway. The main thing is, for people who are wondering why the cutting is so important for wildflower species, is that sort of the proper wildflowers that we do see sort of along the roadside verges and things around the Blaenau Gwent area, is they're very dependent on low nutrient levels. And if the grass is just left, the dominant grass will just keep growing and growing and growing, and it will take over an area until there's no space left for the more pretty wildflowers that people like to see. So by doing a regular cut and removing the cut materials from the site, we free up these spaces in the ground for a wider variety of wildflower species to grow, and that's what gives us these more sort of picturesque banks full of wildflowers, which is why we're doing the task we're doing today. It's also very important to mention that although we are managing the site in certain areas for wildflowers, we are doing this in a rotational system, because even though wildflower areas are very special and specific for certain species, these so-called rank grassland areas or rough grassland areas are in their own right very important for other types of wildlife, in particular small mammals, and we've found very high populations of voles living in these sort of rough grassland areas, and those themselves are a food source for kestrels, and we do have kestrels regularly on site. So we have to make sure that we are finding that balance and not being specific to only managing for wildflowers, but also making sure there's a niche for all other types of wildlife as well.